Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Mochen La'ira Online Smicha to discuss a short halacha on this week's Parshas Toldos. Right in the beginning of the Parsha, the pasuk says the story how Esav came home hungry and Yaakov was cooking a dish of lentils, and Esav wanted some, and the story goes on how Yaakov sold it to him, and he got in return the rights to the Bekora. And this is how the pasuk describes the transaction. Vayomer Esav al Yaakov. Esav says to Yaakov, "Haliteini na min ha'adam hazeh." Pour down some of this red stuff. Ki oyev hanoichi, because I'm tired. Vayomer Yaakov says, "You know what? Michra chayom es bechorasli. If you sell me your Bekora." Now Rashi points out, what does it mean? Why was Yaakov interested in the Bekora? So Rashi says, "Lefi sha'avoda b'bechoros," because service in the Beis Hamikdash and the holy places back then was done by the Bechorim. Yaakov said, "Ein rasha zeh kedai sheyakriv lakadosh baruch hu." It's not proper that a person like Esav should be the one that's doing the service to the Eibishter. So Yaakov felt it's more proper for somebody in his level rather than Esav's level to do the hakrava. Michra kayoim, says Rashi. What does it mean kayoim? Shehu baruch, just like kayoim shehu baruch, just like day is clear. It's a clear day. It's clear as day. Kach mechorli mechira barura. Let's make this a real good sale, a sale that's final. And then if this transaction is final, I will give you what you want. So Vayomer Esav says, Hina yanechi haylech lamos. I'm dying anyways. Lamos eli bechera. What do I need this all? Vayomer Yaakov. So Yaakov says again, Hishavali kayoim. Make a shvua kayoim. Vayishavaloi. He made a shvua, and Yaakov bought, and Esav sold the bechera to Yaakov. And the pasuk concludes, the Yaakov Nasal Esav, and Yaakov gave to Esav the bread and the lentils. Vayochel, Vayesh, they sat and ate. He ate and they drank. Vayokam, Vayivaz Esav esabchera. And the well-known question is, for a sale to be final, for a sale even if it's with a kinyan, to make a transaction, the item that you are selling has to be physically somewhere. Either right in front of you, there's a buyer and seller exchanging hands, or the item that's being sold is somewhere out there, and they're talking about an item in an existence. However, an item that's not around, it may even come for sure in the future, but it's not presently here, there is the rule of Ein Adam Makna Dava Shalei Bala Olam. A person cannot sell something, a person can't even make a kinyan on something that's not in existence yet. And the question is, this inyan of the Bechora, what part of the Bechora, there's at least one part of the Bechora that wasn't even in play right now. Now there are three parts to the Bechora here. One part of the Bechora is like Rashi says, he wanted to do the Avodah. Okay, so maybe that some form of Avodah was already done, so there was in existence that part of the Bechora. And the second part of the Bechora is the honor that come along with a bechor, that may be in existence, but the fact that a Yerusha, the inheritance gets pishnayim, gets double of your bechor, that only comes along once the father passes away. And right now, as they're being bought and sold, it's not around. So how are you able to make a transaction, a final sale on something that's not physically here? And the Gemara in Bab Metzia, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, says this like this. If somebody said, Reuben says to Shimon, Mashi'irash me Abba mecharlach, what I will inherit from my father, I'm selling to you. So he's selling in advance something which he hopes to get from his father's Yerusha. Or a guy goes fishing and he says, Mashatala mitzudasi, whatever my net, whatever my fishing rod will bring today, I'm selling it to you now in advance. So the Gemara says, Lo yom klum. That transaction is null and void, because at the time of your discussion with the buyer and seller, the item that you're selling wasn't around. However, if he says, Mashi'ira min Abba hayoim, Mecharlach, what I'm getting from my father today as inheritance will be sold to you. Or Mashatala Metsudasi Hayoin Mecharlach, whatever of the fishing I get today, then Devarav Kayomim. So the Gemara asks, I don't get it. If it's all because of Eino the Maknadav Shalei Bala'ilam, what's the difference if he adds the word Hayoin in his dialogue, in his discussion? How does that change? And for the Gemara says like this: Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Seifa in the second case when he says Mashiira Shmei Abe Hayoin, it's Mishum Kavod Aviv. In other words, his father is about to pass away, and he needs money for the burial of the father. So because he needs money for the burial of the father, it's happening today. The father's so he could turn around and sell what's because it's hashitala mitzudasi hayoim is because he needs money for a meal right now. Even before he goes fishing, he needs the money. So he says, what I'm going to catch in an hour or so, all right, it's close by. But if you sell what I'm going to catch over the next month or the next long period of time, that's not a sale, because only what you need for a meal, kadei chaya, for now, that you could sell because it's more tangible. So now the question is, how does this fit in with the fact that Yaakov Avinu felt that this was a final sale, as the Lashon Rashi says, Mechira Brura. He wanted to have a good sale, a final sale, when after all, a big part of the Bechira is not going to, at least the Yerusha part of the Bechira is not going to kick in till after Yitzchak passes away. So over here we actually find 4 different things that Yaakov did in the middle of this conversation that perhaps that gave strength to the fact that he was able to acquire it in a way of a kinyan. Number 1, it says Vayishava. He made him make a shvuah. What is that? What does the shvuah add? Because there's a machlokes in the Rishonim. If the Tshuvas Rivash says that according to the Rush, Tshuvas Rivash is in Siman Shin Chav Ches. He brings that the Rush holds, you're right, ein adam matna davar shalei bala elam. But if the person makes a shvuah on the sale, then the Rush says the shvuah allows the sale to pass. And the Rush explains, the proof for that is, and that's why Yaakov's transaction with Esav was real, because since Esav made a shvuah, as the pasuk says, Vayomer Yaakov hishavali kayoim, vayishavaloi, so the shvuah upgrades it that even though it's not presently here, it's a commitment that you have to keep. The Rivash himself argues, he says, how could shvuah make a difference if it's not here, it's not here? And obviously this discussion, this machlekes between the Rivash and the Rush, needs a lot of lumdish explanation why he holds the shvuah does make it a valid sale and he doesn't. But that's one shita that will say why Yaakov over here was able to buy it legally, halachically, because it was done with a shvuah. Number 2, as mentioned, Yaakov added the word kayoin. The word kayoin is like the Gemara says, if you're selling a long-term thing, then it's a davar shalei bala. What you're selling is something what you need right now, what you want right now. Then that's why twice it stressed the word kayoim. Then even the davar shalei bala now is still sold. And then there is another act that Yaakov did to solidify the kinyan, and that is, Chazal say that right after the pasuk says they sat down, he ate lechem, the zidadoshim. What was the point of that? So the Rashbam brings that this was lekiyum hadavar, to solidify, to finalize the deal, as the minig hamakom is, like the Marami Rottenberg brings that. In the olden times, every time there was a big business deal and the deal was finished, they sat down, they ate something, they drank something. Like some people say, L'chaim, let's we're happy when the deal is closed. And Chazal and Shulchan Aruch says in Choshen Mishpat Siman Reish Aleph that any custom that the businessmen do to show as part of a sale being final, that it automatically solidifies the kinyan. So, for example, some associate, some say a handshake, even though it's not originally one of the kinyanim that the Gemara talks about, because that's the way businessmen finalize a deal. A handshake would be considered a kinyan, and that's called a situmta. So over here, perhaps the fact that they sat down and he ate something, the kinyan situmta is a kinyan that maybe does allow a davar shalei bala olam to pass. And then there is another thing that Yaakov Avinu did. Yaakov Avinu did is he gave him the adashim, he gave it to him in a keli. And what was the adashim in the lentils in the keli? With that, he performed a form of kinyanim which is called chalipim. And by chalipin, some Rishonim hold that chalipin, the kinyan of chalipin, is makna, is kaina, even a davar shalei bala olam. I actually saw somebody saying a very beautiful word. L'chayra, you can't make chalipin with food, with peiros. You have to make chalipin with a keli. So some say that's why this is the difference between Yaakov and Esav. Esav used the word halitenina, pour it down. He didn't want to make a real kinyan. He was a scammer, so he didn't want to acquire it, sell it for real. So he didn't want to touch or acquire the keli. He said pour it down without. He knew that the food would not be a proper kinyan. But Yaakov outsmarted the system. He gave it to him in a keli, because with a keli you could make the kinyan of chalipin, and chalipin would be kind of even a davar shalei bala olam.